our federal update today. Josh?
Thank you, Madam Chair, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, full board, Commissioner. Thank you for the opportunity to provide you this federal authorizations and appropriations update and the sort of cycle of things we do over the course of the year. The September is usually that month we do a little federal refresher as we kind of stare down the prospect of the end of the federal fiscal year, which ends September the 30th. And obviously, Washington is never a boring place, and this September 2023 proves very similar to previous Septembers. So certainly y'all can read headlines and see the news and kind of see the politics back and forth. I'm not going to dive too much. I'm not going to dive into the politics of it, but more just the impact and understand, okay, what happens if scenarios and its impact on transportation. So lay of the land first, I'm going to just cover a quick kind of update on the Federal Aviation Administration's reauthorization process, to give you some highlights, and then delve a little bit, in portion, a little bit of a 101, since we know we've got some newer board members, and just a refresher for all of us. I think some of these things come up from time to time, and you may have heard it, you may have memorized the definition, and then you don't have to think about that definition again for another year or two, and then you're like, okay, what is it? How does that work again? So a little bit of 101 on authorization appropriation, and then tie that back in again with where we are in terms of the end of September and as we look forward going into the remainder of the calendar year, starting the new federal fiscal year. So first, just a reminder that all agencies, and I'll get into this a little bit when we talk about authorizations, have an authorizing statute. FAA's is usually a 5-year authorization bill, and so it's up. It expires on September the 30th. It would then be authorized, if it were passed in its current form, it would go through September 30th of 2028. So the House has passed its version, and one of the most consequential components dealing with sort of what GDOT administers is there's an increase to the Airport Improvement Program, the AIP, about $650 million annually. So it's typically a $3.35 billion program and would be $4 billion annually under the bill. The Senate has its own version. Now, the House has passed that version, so that House bill is now in the Senate, and the Senate had a version, but that has not passed out of committee. So similar to the whole discussion about federal funding, there's not been a whole lot of progress on moving those specific bills. So likely you're going to see probably some type of extension on the FAA reauthorization as part of the CR, or it may need to be a standalone extension if there is no CR. A few things. So on the FAA reauthorization, it's dealing with all the programs under the FAA. A few things that were in the House version of note is, we've talked a lot with the IIJA, the FHWA FTA reauthorization bill about streamlining the environmental process. There's some additional language in the FAA reauthorization to help streamline the environmental process when you're looking at airport projects. Senate version doesn't quite include that, but then it runs the gamut of things from when you think about all of the stories about passengers and Bill of Rights for passengers, slots at Reagan National Airport, all those things, which airports can have taken certain flights, all those things are part of the mix of the discussion, as well as pilot age, a lot of policies that have, are obviously impactful for aviation, but not necessarily within the purview of GDOT. So all those things are part of the reason we don't have an FAA reauthorization bill already presented and signed by the president. So next I'll jump in kind of that 101. So pivot off of FAA to talk about what's an authorization bill. So it's a pretty good definition here. I pulled it from a Congressional Research Service report. It can establish, continue, or modify an agency, program, or activity for a fixed or indefinite period of time. It sets forth the duties and functions of an agency or program. So it's legislation that Congress passes before there's ever an appropriation that basically says this agency is allowed to do this. And typically it'll set thresholds and say you can do up to this point, you can have up to this amount of money, and then appropriators later come in and can appropriate up to that point. So examples, one we're all very familiar with, IIJA, certainly that was called the Transportation Bill, the Infrastructure Bill, but a good chunk of it was taking that periodic transportation reauthorization. It was just renewing, it was just that reauthorization with other things added to it. But other examples, the National Defense Authorization Act, now that one's done annually, so that authorizes all the programs. Very familiar with our military assets, but all those programs, weapon systems, all the authorizing is done annually. The Water Resources Development Act, so when we think of the deepening at Savannah, we think about the Army Corps of Engineers, all the water infrastructure projects, the authorizations for those occur usually every 2-year cycle, and sometimes they just have to extend it. Agriculture and Nutrition Program, commonly known as the Farm Bill, that's a 5-year bill. And then like FAA. Now there's a whole long list of agencies, but there's sort of a 2-step process. There's having an authorization in law, and then appropriators can come and appropriate. So that's, here the next bullet. Authorization bills enable Congress to appropriate funds to the activities and up to the amounts that were authorized in that authorization. So the nuance, though, when we talk about the IIJA, and this is going to get relevant when we get to the end of the discussion about where we stand, is that because you have the Federal Highway Trust Fund, so Congress, you have a trust fund, it's funded with guaranteed revenues from the federal motor fuel tax. It's actually, as opposed to waiting for the annual appropriations, you're able to do, FHWA has what's called contract authority, and then that federal commitment enables the federal commitment to fund project expenses in the future. And that's called an obligation. Now, in the past, I've had a spread, sorry, one second. Sorry, the annual, so apologize one second. So the Annual Appropriations Act appropriates the FHWA the liquidating cash to pay its obligations, and customarily places a limitation on the amount of new obligations in that fiscal year. I apologize. I am drawing, I apologize. So the
give us the sounds like, or we'll help.
Yes.
we'll phone a friend, but so you have your contract authority, and then you've got your obligation limitation to the point that technically the money is there for anything that's under contract. So, and I'll remind you that when you vote on projects to be bid and we receive bids and award those bids, that money is in the bank, so to speak. And so there's not a worry of anything that should happen with a shutdown that we have to stop work on anything. And I think, Josh, where you're going to is technically under the transportation bill is you got 5 years of funding that's set in that bill, and technically, since it's a trust fund, the money is there too. And Sabrina, you can help me out. We can help our friend out too. But to that point is, you know, it's a little bit different than general approach where government shutdown means things stop. And then Federal Highway actually is able to continue to work and continue to do certain things. Maybe for what was previously passed. Well, that's the nuance is, maybe Sabrina, talk about what you guys can do should there be a shutdown.
So Josh was talking about the authorization, and when the ISO bill for 5 years, okay, so that and having that contract authority for the trust fund, so deposits are still going in, and that's unique, not all other federal agencies have, and so that allows that commitment to continue. And so annually, there's an appropriation that, as Josh was saying, that allows, the funds to be paid. So the obligation, so Congress controls spending through the obligation limitation. So while the apportionment, GDOT might get, say $100, I don't know, just simple terms, $100 in apportionment for a fund code, the limitation might be 80.
80,
Just to kind of control that, and then so, that's just how that's done. But, so are you getting toward the shutdown yet?
So
Potential, or, I mean.
I apologize, I don't know, I just sort of,
It happens on October 1st.
let me, hit reset.
You know,
So, on the, thank you, I don't know what to say.
It's called being human, I believe. You can look it up in your Funkin' Wagnalls.
If you, yeah,
So you have
So,
authorization,
on
they
co-
come out every year on October 1st, you have to have an annual appropriations or a continuing resolution
Right.
to continue going. But
So the benefit of the contract authority is that ability for FHWA, unlike other agencies, to make that commitment. So later today, you're going to have a presentation approving the STIP.
Mhm.
And that, the ability of us to actually promulgate a STIP and approve it is conditioned on the fact that you have that contract authority. It requires the annual appropriation, so it's a machine, so everything's reimbursable. So we incur, to the point I think you made, we incur a cost, bill FHWA, we get 80 cents on the dollar. But there's, the mechanics of that requires an Appropriations Act to liquidate that commitment. And that's where the appropriations ties in. And in terms of the Annual Appropriations Act, it places a restriction on how much Federal Highway can actually obligate in that year. Otherwise, it's tied into what the IIJA or the underlying authorization has.
So help me just a little bit on this contract authority. That is embedded in the into the IIJA. Is that an annual?
That's the 5 years, so every
So
5
it's
years.
5 years,
Going back
okay.
over 100 years since you've had the Highway Trust Fund and this notion of you have a guaranteed revenue source going into that. And so they're allowed to do things that other agencies, they're just subject to annual appropriations. And we'll get into that at the end of the presentation. So next, was looking at the calendar. So we are here today at September the 20th, and the end of the fiscal year is September the 30th. Mentioned FAA reauthorization is September the 30th, and then the current appropriations ends on September 30th. So where does Congress stand today? There has been a discussion about a 31-day continuing resolution. The word as of right now is a shutdown, a potential, what we'd call it, what's the term is lapse in annual appropriations. So a continuing resolution typically amends the prior year's Appropriations Act, takes last year's Appropriations Act, strikes September 30th, and puts another date. So in this case, if it was 31 days, it'd be October the 31st. When that happens, so you're dealing with the prior year's Appropriation Act number. So if you look at the IIJA, it provides for a 2% increase in most programs. So you wouldn't get the benefit of that 2% increase in programs because you're operating off the prior fiscal year's amount. And then they take whatever that amount was, you divide it by 365, that gives you an amount per day, and then you multiply it by the number of days in CR. So if it's a 31-day continuing resolution, 31 times that pro rata rate. So again, that's if you're operating under CR. If you don't have it and you have what's called a lapse in appropriations, which the last time that occurred was at the end of 2018, going into 2019, at least at length, is about 35 days. For all agencies that are funded with appropriations, that basically, unless you're an essential function, what's considered non-exempt, those activities cease. Now, for FHWA, FTA, most of the U.S. DOT's modal agencies, they're covered by the Federal Highway Trust Fund. So in a lapse of appropriations, they're able to continue. Now, FAA, FRA, for their non-exempt, non-safety functions, some of those will cease. Last year, on September the 28th, US DOT put out a 33-page document that highlighted, in the event had we gone into a shutdown last year, what functions would continue and what wouldn't under a lapse. So, but for the most part, you would have you'd have most of our operations continuing if there's a lapse in annual appropriations. Now, it's been a recurring theme, whether it's a CR, whether it's a lapse of appropriations in a scenario where maybe FHWA is not authorizing new activities. We have typically been able to to weather a 1 to 3 month CR without a major impact to the program, and because of the ability of the state to use its state budget authority to do what we call advanced construct and allow and basically we front the federal program until that authorization comes in and can replace the state funds with federal funds. So obviously we'll keep the board updated.
In this process, and I don't know if it's still applicable, but doesn't sequestration get triggered at some point?
So under the last budget agreement that was reached to establish the caps, if a full year appropriation is not done by January the 1st, then a 1% across the board cut is triggered. Like with everything, they can pass a resolution to undo that. So that was built into that most recent budget agreement to create an incentive to not be in a perpetual state of CRs. But I think they have, provided they don't have a CR that goes beyond January the 1st, they won't trigger that. And then the question will become, how would sequestration impact? It's unlikely that 1% would impact trust-funded activities. So the appropriated activities, those things that would probably be subject to that. I'm not sure that the trust fund activities would. With that,
Are there any
Jim, I
other
don't freeze up
questions
again.
or comments?
Questions?
I would like to ask if you'll keep us abreast during, from one board meeting to the next board meeting, what is happening with this. We all have a great interest, as well as the public does, in regards to what happens to our budget process here. So, but I think this has been very valuable. It's been a good refresher course for some, and for those of you new on the board, I think it helps, I hope, you understand a little bit better about the funds that come in to us through the federal process. And also, it states to us to remember that federal operates from October the 1st to October the 1st each year. So it's a different kind of a fiscal year that we have here. Any other comments? Thank you, Josh. Very good. If no other comments or questions, this meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.
At this time, I would like to call the Administrative Committee to order, and we are going to get an update for some of you. For others, maybe something new that you're not aware about that is going on here. We've asked Nicole Glenn to come forward. She's our recruitment manager, and she is going to tell us a little bit about our GDOT internship program that we have going on, particularly in our district offices, and I'm very excited about it because District 5 has quite a few interns there. So with that, Nicole, if you would, please.
Good afternoon. District 5 actually has 12 interns this summer. So good afternoon, Chairperson, members of the committee and the Commissioner. I am Nicole Glenn, the recruitment manager for the department, and I'm here to talk to you today about the summer intern program.
Nicole, put your mic up so we can hear better if you don't mind.
Is this any better? So I have a question for you. What do drone pilots and archaeologists have in common with civil engineers and journalists? They all have fulfilling and exciting careers here at the Georgia Department of Transportation, and so can you. Each summer, the department receives hundreds of applications from eager students hoping for a position with the GDOT Summer Intern Program. Do you want to make the community around you safer, save a few thousand lives, and earn competitive pay while you're at it? Well, then come experience GDOT. The department uses the Summer Intern Program as a recruitment tool to build a pipeline of candidates for years to come. The Summer Intern Program is an excellent opportunity to show off the department's culture of innovation and collaboration. While we're at it, do we have any employees here today who had an opportunity to experience GDOT as an intern? Feel free to stand or show your hands. All right, that's a pretty great success story. Thank you for sharing. So what does it mean to experience GDOT? That's a great question. Many things in college are have-to-dos, but here at GDOT, there are a lot of things you get to do. The Summer Internship Program offers students an opportunity to focus on things that you're interested in learning. Engineering interns are offered an opportunity to rotate through several areas of transportation engineering to discover what fits them best. Non-engineering students are paired with professionals in their area of study. The department is proud to offer all students an experiential learning opportunity. So on the screen, you'll see students here are offered the opportunity to rotate through a lot of different areas, see all the different areas the department has to offer. This summer, we hosted our largest class of summer interns. These interns worked in a variety of areas across the state. This experience starts in May with a statewide orientation hosted by Human Resources. They were greeted by many of the department's leaders, some in this room today, who shared their experiences with interning at the department, and then they were released to their teams. They were then surveyed and checked in on frequently to ensure a quality experience. We welcomed 87 interns, 73 engineers, and 14 non-engineering students for 13 weeks. Most of our interns are juniors and seniors, civil engineers. These are the top 5 majors. Second were construction managers, mechanical engineers, and civil engineering technologists, followed by IT. Over half of our engineering interns are set to graduate in the next 3 semesters. Of the December 23 grads, 4 of them have already accepted contingent offers, 2 have already graduated and started working with us full-time. Like our full-time team, our interns have a diverse background. They came from 5 states, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, West Virginia, and Mississippi, and 20 colleges, including 5 HBCUs. A majority of the interns came from 5 schools in Georgia that offer civil engineering and construction management programs. Those are UGA, Kennesaw State University, Georgia Southern, Georgia Tech, and Savannah State University. The schools on this screen you can see are all the schools that were represented in the program. So you may be wondering how we recruit for these interns. We visit 15 to 20 schools a semester for our career fairs, campus takeovers, and guest lectures. This year, we participated in 24 guest lectures, 7 Employer of the Day events, and 11 club meetings to include the American Society of Civil Engineers, Construction Guild meetings, and the National Society of Engineers, just to name a few. These events help us meet students to introduce them to the exciting work we do here. Each semester, we have 20 to 30 subject matter experts join us on the recruitment trail to find the best and the brightest to join our team. Some of the people in the room with us today are regulars on the recruitment trail, including the commissioner. You may notice this picture on the slide. He participated in the first ever UGA campus takeover and spoke to the UGA campus, ASCE meeting with over 100 students in attendance. He'll be joining us again in a few weeks on the UGA campus. Students are always impressed to see our leaders come out to guest lecture and speak. So how do the interns feel about this program? I could stand up here all day and brag about the program, about how our offices and districts do such a fantastic job, because they do, and the numbers show that. But I think that the most impactful statements would probably come from the interns themselves. Feedback from the interns is overwhelmingly positive. We routinely have repeat interns. On this slide, on screen, you can see feedback from the interns themselves. These are just a few of the comments we shared from a social media campaign run by the Office of Communications over the summer. Excuse me. So, why are we offering internships, and what is the value added? Over the last 3 years, we've hired, Over the last 3 years, we've hired 110 CE2s. CE2s is the entry-level civil engineer position, 25 of which were previous interns. Many of our leaders, to include the commissioner, have been in previous GDOT interns. While we've hired 110 entry-level CE2s, we've had 113 engineers of all levels leave the department. The entry-level civil engineer position is used to backfill those positions. Those engineers come in and are given the training they need to be promoted to higher levels. The department invests in employees the way we invest in our infrastructure, and we give our employees all the tools they need for long, successful careers. Later on today, you'll hear from Andy Casey and how they take new hires in the Office of Roadway Design and train them in the RAPID program. So if you know students who might be interested in becoming an archaeologist or civil engineer, or potentially the commissioner of the Department of Transportation, invite them to apply to come experience GDOT. Thank you very much for your time. I hope you have to answer any questions.
Do I have any questions or comments?
This, and I may have missed it.
Yeah.
But at the end of the internship, I assume they're given the opportunity to join as a full staff member. What is that rate that you have conversion from internship to employee?
Yes, that's a great question. So right now, it's about 25%. Yeah. So of the interns this year, we've hired 10 of the interns so far.
It's a great result.
Yeah.
Mr. Lewis, Jeff?
Yeah, thank you for that. You mentioned, I think 14 of your interns were non-engineering related. Perhaps you did mention and I missed it, but wasn't a couple examples of non-engineering interns?
Yeah, so we hired interns in the Office of Communications, in IT, and Human Resources.
Any other comments? Mr. Commissioner?
Just intern, old intern, but I just want to commend Nicole and her team. As you saw the numbers really pop up, this is by far the best job interview you ever get, but because one is the intern determines if they like this kind of work, and if they do, and they have a good output, it's the best investment you can make, because you're sort of like a marriage, you know who you're getting in the deal. And so but I just want to commend her and her team for doing the innovative things. She mentioned the campus takeovers. Not many college campuses have said, hey, come on in, sure, take over my campus. That took a lot of work. And Nicole has built tremendous relationships with all the universities to have that access for a university system to say, hey, yes, we would like for it to be GDOT Day, and to get engaged throughout the entire day. She mentioned the opportunity I had at UGA. I thought I was walking into a student group of about 20, and there's 100, you said 100, it looked like 200 people in there, but I was like, wow, this is impressive. And that's all due to her credit and her team's credit for working with the universities and the technical colleges as well. And that's another focus too, with technical colleges that are continuing to expand to bring in workforce with a civil engineering technology degree you saw in that pie chart, and others. And to Mr. Lewis's point is, it's not just engineers we're looking for. We're looking for accountants and IT and communications, and you'll see. I think you'll see a video tomorrow that we did internally. That's just impressive. I mean, you're seeing the outcomes of these investments that we're making in interns, and to Kathy's point is we're trying to offer people jobs early because the private sector are offering jobs in their junior years, not when they're in a senior, but in junior years, private sector is already offering jobs. So we're trying to get the job offers early, provided that it's a good fit. And so just wanted to say thank you, and Madam Chair, thanks for letting me say those few words.
Yes, sir. Well, to the old intern, thank you very much. We're excited to have all of our interns present. Has it been 2 years or more that we've actually had the GDOT internship program?
So we've had the internship program for several years, but the data that I shared was for the last 3 years.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. I think it's a fantastic way to get our young people involved early in what GDOT is all about, and I have been amazed at the turnout of individuals that attend, and how many of those that we are being able to, again, visit with and employ through our GDOT programs when they graduate from school. So thank you, Commissioner, for being so involved.
Well, I credit to, I see a couple of our district engineers and office heads here. It's really their job, because when I was hired as an intern, my job was to take up asphalt tickets. It was not much of an experiential learning. I learned that asphalt was 325 to 350 degrees. Yeah. Jamie was on that intern program as well. So, that's not experiential learning. You learn that how hot it is and, what hard work that is. But I want to give credit again to all the offices, because they are, as you saw in that picture, they're taking time to plan and give the students opportunity to learn all about GDOT, not just where they are assigned, but they get abroad. Each district goes around, they show them all the different duties in the districts, and the same here in the offices. They give them training throughout. That takes effort and in planning, so I want to thank them. It's not anything I've done, it's everything that they do. So, but we need to acknowledge that, because that slide there took a lot of planning and a lot of effort. You can see they're actually at a looks like concrete pipe manufacturing location, and seeing things being fabricated before it ever arrives on the job site, and just having that basis of knowledge is very good. So thanks to them.
Yes, Jamie?
Participation grown every year, is it increasing year, is that what?
Absolutely, yes. So this chart here shows how it's grown, over the last few years.
That wasn't luck, by the way, that was work.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Nicole, thank you for a great report. I certainly support the internship program, and I think you see that this board is right behind you. And thanks for all the good work to our district as they promote that in the areas, and a job well done. And let's continue that. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a great afternoon.
With that, I adjourn the meeting.
Thank you.
All the meeting. Take our seats.
Chairman Jamie, I wish I'd have waited another 6 minutes. I know he was chairing this, I'd have stayed in the parking lot.
I'd like to call to order the Program Delivery Committee meeting and ask Mr. Andy Casey if he would come forward, please.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Commissioner. It's a pleasure to be with you all once again this afternoon to share with you a program we started in roadway design called RAPID. However, before I give you a brief overview of this program, I just want to remind everyone who we are and what we do. The Office of Roadway Design, along with our 7 district offices, is responsible for in-house engineering and design of a variety of urban and rural transportation projects throughout the state. This includes the development, coordination of concept, layouts, reports, right-of-way plans, and construction plans for operational, safety, bridge replacement, and capital improvement projects. We developed RAPID in the early part of 2017 in response to the number of entry and junior level engineers with less than 4 years of experience. We had a relatively young and less experienced staff in roadway design at that time. At that point in time, we had 34% of our staff were entry-level titles. As you heard from Nicole, that's a civil engineer 2 that we're out there recruiting at the colleges and universities. Of those entry-level title individuals, they had less than 2 years experience on average. We had another 36% of our staff were junior level title, and the junior level is one step above in our career ladder. And those individuals on average had less than 4 years experience. So when you add those up, that's 70% of our staff back in 2017. That's a lot, right? That had less than 4 years of experience. So there existed a need to find a way to accelerate the learning process of our select number of engineers in our office. So RAPID stands for Roadways Accelerated Program for Individual Development. As the name and acronym suggests, this accelerated program was established to grow our engineers' knowledge, skills, and abilities in becoming a highly productive, transportation engineer as quickly as possible. As with most engineering career fields, becoming a productive transportation design engineer can take some time, due in large part to the number of different discipline areas that we practice and the timing of gaining exposure in those areas. So what we have done is develop a curriculum that focuses on individual development needs in these areas. The benefits to the individual participants are exposure to a wider array of design elements in a compressed amount of time, mentoring and training opportunities to expand the breadth of knowledge to each participant, and it also provides an additional degree of challenge to the employee, which in turn aids in the development of that employee. The benefits to the office and department is key assistance on projects and the aid to deliver per baseline schedule, improved employee retention by allowing individuals to gain experience needed to advance to the next level in the career ladder. And we also have an innovation improvement idea and presentation to help make the office and the department better. So what does RAPID look like? RAPID is a 12-month program. It is open to all GDOT in-house design engineers, both here at One Georgia Center and in our 7 district offices, roadway design offices. Applicants submit a simple one-page application. Application and enrollment into RAPID is strictly on a volunteer basis and must have the approval of the individual's direct supervisor. Generally, we accept around 3 to 4 applicants per round. We do have 2 prerequisites to this program. First one is the employee must pass the FE exam. That's the fundamental of engineering exam. That's the first step for an employee and an individual to gain their professional engineer license. And second is we're targeting individuals at the Civil Engineer 4, which is our lead engineer and below. Once again, we're targeting that entry, the junior level position within our offices. So we have 4 core areas in RAPID. They are enhanced project experience, required training classes, mentoring sessions, and office innovation and improvement presentations. The enhanced project experience consists of 6 cycles. Each of these cycles focuses in on a specific area of project development, such as concept, right-of-way, or quality assurance. We pick major tasks on a variety of project scopes to give participants a wide array of complexity. Each of these cycles are catered to each participant to help fill in the gaps of knowledge he or she may have. For example, in the cycle for minor design, a participant may be completing geometric design on a roundabout project or completing stage and cross sections on a bridge replacement project. Conversely, in the cycles for major design 1 and 2, a participant may be completing capacity analysis on an interchange or developing erosion controls on a corridor widening project. The idea here is to expose the participant to as much of the design process as possible and allow them to complete tasks they might not have had a chance to complete. These tasks, which is great, this is a great part of the program, are actual projects that are being developed in-house. So the participants are actually working on projects that are in other groups, therefore aiding in the delivery of those projects. The second core area is training classes. So we have identified what we consider core engineering curriculum training for all of our in-house design engineers. And they are listed here up on the screen. Our RAPID participants are given priority seating in these courses if they become available during their 12-month rotation. But ultimately, everyone will sit for these classes once they are offered. The third component of RAPID is mentoring sessions. We have developed and identified 12 mentoring or knowledge sharing sessions, if you will, that each participant will rotate through. These mentoring sessions are either with myself or one of 3 assistant office heads in roadway design. These are 30-minute to 1-hour conversations that allow the participant to gain a better understanding of a wide range of topics. These sessions are meant to be conversational in nature and allow each participant to ask questions and provide feedback, thoughts, and ideas. The fourth core area is office innovation and improvement presentations. Just as in the department's management development program, each participant is required to develop an innovative idea that is focused on enhancing the way we do business. In other words, making it better. This innovative idea can be from an office level perspective or from an office division-wide perspective. Each participant develops the idea along with a presentation and delivers that presentation to the chief engineer, director of engineering, and office leaderships at the end of the 12-month rapid program. Once again, this continues to speak to the culture of innovation that we have established here within the department. So I wanted to take a moment and highlight some of these office improvement ideas of our past rapid graduates. Roadway Advisor Program. This is an employee onboarding tool that we have implemented in roadway design. When a new hire comes on board, we assign this individual a roadway advisor, or an RA, from a list of volunteers in our office. This RA, much like the RA that you had in college, maybe at your college dorm or resident assistant, provides support to the new hire in the first several months of employment. We're trying to create a welcoming environment to this individual, answer any questions he or she may have, and just provide support in general. This is in addition to what the new hires receive from their immediate supervisor and office leadership. Typically, the RA is from a different group than the employee is assigned to. Once again, we're trying to expand the network within our office by providing that individual a new face and name. Fast tracking local bridge projects. This initiative proposes to streamline the development of local bridge projects by applying low-impact bridge methodologies and guidance when it comes to project development. One notable proposal is to eliminate the concept phase from local bridge program projects. The Rapid Graduate is currently meeting and coordinating with SME offices within the department and garnering input and comments in support of this proposal. This was from a 2023 graduate. The third highlighted initiative is New Engineering Employee Training, or NEET, if you will. This initiative focuses on targeted training topics that new roadway engineers need to learn during their first few months of employment. These topics include such items as introduction to the department's document management tool, ProjectWise, reading and understanding a pre-construction status report, and other items such as these to help the engineer get up to speed. It's a lot of little things that take a little bit of time, but we're starting to see that they go a long way in developing our young staff. So on the screen here is our past graduates. We started, as I mentioned, in the spring of 2017. First graduating class was in 2018. We took a small little break during COVID, but we ramped it back up in the summer of 22 and graduated that class in the summer of 23. And we had just now started our fourth cohort, if you will, be the class of 2024, recently got underway. This has been a great retention tool for us. Our retention rate for past graduates is 90%. In addition, some of the past graduates have gone on to become senior design engineers for their office managers, and office leadership within our districts. And here is a couple of pictures of our graduating class of 2023. I would like to give a special thank you to Robert Elam, office head in roadway design, for being the rapid coordinator, and all of our design managers here at One Georgia Center and in the districts for providing projects and support for the enhanced project experience. And with that, Mr. Chairman, that concludes my presentation, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Casey. Any questions, comments?
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Mr. Yes, Mr. McMurray.
From one intern to another, Johnny.
Yes.
No, I just want to commend Andy and appreciate his acknowledgement of Robert for seeing a challenge and taking it on. And as he said better than I can, it's really given our employees exposure to a broad experience very quickly. And that really helps with that retention part of that, making a big investment. Nicole's presentation previously is the recruitment part. which costs a lot of money. I mean, it's an investment in what Andy is doing, and the team is basically optimizing that investment, investing even more faster so that we get a better return quicker. And so I want to thank him for his leadership and direction. Again, this is separate and apart from their day job of doing roadway design activities, but it's the important thing. It's the very important part of the job that we have successful leadership in the future that will follow his great example and continue to build on it. So thank you, Andy, and appreciate everybody in roadway design and throughout the districts too that have helped this. So thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's just again a wonderful investment in our best assets, our employees.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Meeting is adjourned.
It could have come in, you know. Tell Robert it's, huh?
Kim.
All right. Hey, can I have your attention, please? What? Dennis, Mr. McIntyre, would you please, have a seat?
I'll be there. Being called out. And by the way, it's not called late, it's called making an entrance.
Thank you. Thank you, Kathy. If I can have your attention, yes. It would. You got it. Let me call the statewide transportation planning committee to order. And today we have the assistant office head for rural and metro planning presenting, I think Vivian, but do you have something? Who's going to speak first?
Good afternoon, everybody. And Ms. Williams, I may try to use that line. It's not late, it's making an entrance. We'll see how that goes over. Good afternoon, everyone. If you'll remember, I spoke to this committee last month to give you an overview of the statewide transportation improvement program. Queuing it up for this month as we wrap up public involvement. I will be requesting approval from this committee to the full board for tomorrow for a full approval and recommendation of the STIP. But I wanted to introduce to you Vivian Canizares. She is the Assistant Office Head for Metro and Rural Planning in the Planning Division. Vivian and I have worked together closely over the last couple of years, and she's also been working for the Planning Division for about a decade now. So Vivian oversees 13 of the metropolitan planning organizations in the state, and she is also over rural planning. So I'm happy to have her present to the group, and thank you for your time.
Hey. Hello. I'm a little bit shorter than Kelly. So, good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Commissioner. We're coming back to you to present a recap on the statewide transportation improvement program, or STIP, and give you some highlights on the public involvement and some other impacts on the STIP, and also to request the committee's favorable approval and recommendation to the full board for approval at tomorrow's meeting. So you have seen something similar last month, but this is just an overview of the STIP. The STIP is our 4-year physically constrained program for transportation and capital improvement. The STIP lists all the federally funded projects statewide, which I mean for statewide, it's like what we call rural and or not the projects that are located on our metropolitan planning organizations or MPOs. All those documents, we have 16 MPOs, and those documents are included in the final TIP by reference. The STIP is also a federally required document and is developed at least every 4 years, and we request a joint approval from Federal Highway Administration and Federal Transit Administration. Again, just to recap what Kelly was talking about last time, the STIP is it's a collaborative effort, and it takes a little while. Last fall, The planning director met with all the board members at that time. Also, all our district office met with all the rural local officials to, to show them projects draft and receive all their input and questions. And they talked on not only on the STIP projects, but also projects or issues that they might have. So it's a good conversation that, our district offices have with the rural local officials. We also work with all the, with GDOT management, with other divisions, with OPD, with financial management, with the communications office. We work with, also with, last time, we were in the middle of our revision by Federal Highway Administration and Federal Transit Administration. So the whole team, and with the help with the planners from Federal Highway Administration, we have a revision and a final draft that we were able to put for public input from August 18 to September 17, to provide also the public the opportunity to make comments and see the full draft. So our communications office was very good, providing us all the website mapping tools, comment forms, and also we have a welcome video and a very easy to use website. And then we're gonna say that based on the experience that we have had in the current STIP, in the year 2020, we have COVID, so we have to utilize our virtual options. So we noticed that we were more successful reaching and giving people opportunity to comment. And we will say that we have the opportunity to have almost 2 million Georgians to listen, in the radio, the ads for the STIP. Also, we have had almost 1,600 virtual, virtual participation on the website. We also would say that we held 3 virtual public open houses, similarly to when we do virtual open houses for projects. We also did 3 this time to provide the public the opportunity to also comment live. We work closely with our communications office and reach out through social media, also Spotify. So we will say that we were very successful giving, the opportunity to all citizens to provide some comments. Also, in addition to that, we distributed to 160 libraries the STIP flyers for people that don't have access to the internet, so they can go to the library, see that. We have the flyers also translated in Spanish, so we have both in the libraries, just to give the opportunity to the citizens of Georgia that don't have access to the internet. Lastly, we did not want to, go away from the in-person meetings, so we have the opportunity for the citizens to contact our district offices, and and so they go there and provide and reach out for comments and have all the support that they need. This slide is also was shown by Kelly, but just to recap the importance of the STIP, you will see that we have the STIP, the 4 years of the STIP, 24-27, they have $11 billion. These are accounting the rural and MPO investments, they're both. And you can see the major program types here, obviously capacity being the biggest one. And the rural side of the STIP is $4.7 billion. We'll not talk again about every single type because Kelly did a great job last time, but I would say that without this adoption, we will not be able to unlock those $11 billion of investment. Yeah. So, beyond the major highlights, we want to say here, this is only a couple of things that we want to talk about the rural statistics. Because the STIP only shows rural projects, we want to highlight just a couple of things here. From those $11 billion, 4.7 are invested in the rural areas. And from those $4.7 billion, we will have 68 lane miles added to our rural capacity. 231 bridges will be replaced or restored. And also, obviously, since this is a multimodal plan, we have $254 million in investment on transit for 68 rural operators. And, when we were developing the STIP, we were looking for ways to show what is the economic impact of the STIP, what happens if the STIP is done or not done, basically. So we asked our consultants to help us with return on investment, and these numbers are coming in from, we look at our double demand model, and we look at all the construction phases of our capacity projects, and we added to the model to see what will happen when we carry out all these investments against that. So these numbers that you see here are basically what we expect to see as a benefit from the investment of the 24-27 TIP, from those capacity projects. The amount of investment is $3.6 billion on just the construction phases. Sorry, I had a lot of notes. But with that, let me recap a little bit on the public investment and approval process. So when Kelly came here, we were about to finish our final draft with help with, all the whole planning team. We were able to get initial approval from Federal Highway and Federal Transit to send it for public input. We finalized this public input period. We have, the governor has signed the approval of the STIP yesterday. And today, I'm come here to you to request the committee's favorable approval and recommendation to the full board for approval in tomorrow's meeting. After we do that, we will submit it to our federal agencies, Federal Highway, Federal Transit, tomorrow for review and final approval. And with that, I just want to thank everyone. I know that it's a long list, but I would like to thank our leadership, our board members in OFM, OPD, Bridge, the communications office, the districts that they were side by side with us on all the virtual public input. Also my branch, the rural branch that has worked a lot all these months to get here. And also our federal partners, especially the Federal Georgia Division, that very quickly review the whole document and give us comments and also review again our response to comments, and they were very quick. So we were able to be here today. Thank you.
All right, Vivian, thank you very much. If you would, we have some questions, I believe. Jeff, you had a question.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I think it's one slide before this one. If you could, that 3.1 billion savings in vehicle operating costs, I think I may know what that is, but could you tell me what is the STIP definition or standard for vehicle operating costs?
This is model based. So if you think about, we are looking into what is the extra capacity that we're going to have as a whole. And I think that the vehicle operating cost is for freight and regular vehicles in operating costs. So meaning that if we have more capacity, we're going to have, we're going to not stand still. You know what I mean? I can look for a longer definition for you.
So the vehicle operating cost, that's going to be be like wear and tear from hard braking, idling in traffic. So the idea is that the maintenance expenditures, let's say, from a commercial trucking company, you know, there would be a savings in their vehicle operating costs over the year.
Okay, thanks. Thank you.
Mr. Lewis, they assign a $1 per hour rate that you get the travel time. You have a reduction in travel time due to the improvements, and then you can monetize that on an operating rate I don't remember the number. A car used to be like $17 an hour or something like that when you look at, so you can monetize it, which then turns into the overall operational savings as Kelly's talking about, because it's basically monetizing the operation of the vehicle. So you look at the model run of the before and the after, look at the travel time savings, and then monetizes it based on vehicle operating costs. Trucks are a lot more. I don't want to throw a number out. I can't remember what's baked into here, but it's quite a bit when you look at overall operating costs.
Jamie?
Commissioner, is this, all these savings, is this over the four-year period? Is that what this number? There's the fewer hours of delay, and this is not annual, or is it over the time period?
It's a cumulative benefit, and it goes like, let's say that if we have all these investments, so in 4 to 27, from 28 to 2050, we're looking at the future. So because we have a model, so we say our model is until 2050. This is the cumulative numbers that come out that are a result benefit from the investments that we're doing in the 24 to 27 years.
Okay, over that period of time.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for anybody from the board, from the committee, I mean? If not, I need a motion from somebody on the committee to approve.
So moved. Second.
I have a motion from Jeff Lewis and a second from Ann Purcell. Any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed likewise. The ayes have it. It's unanimous. With that, Vivian, thank you very much for the report.
Thank you, everyone.
We stand adjourned. Let's make the second by Dennis McIntyre. Get your name out there, Dennis.
Members of the board and commissioner, for having me here today to talk to you about our activities and accomplishments in District 6. For those of you I haven't worked with yet, I'm Grant Waldrop. I'm the district engineer in Northwest Georgia. I'm honored to lead an outstanding group of men and women who work to build, maintain, operate, and administer the state route system in Northwest Georgia. Today I'd like to share with you some of our accomplishments and our ongoing work. District 6 is located in Northwest Georgia. It includes 17 counties. We have the major interstates of I-75, I-575, I-20, and some of Georgia's shortest interstates in Dade County, I-24 and I-59. In the southern and western parts of our district, we see the suburbs of Atlanta. In the north, we have the suburbs of Chattanooga, so we tend to see growth from both ends of the district. The district includes 155 centerline miles of interstates, 1,888 centerline miles of state routes, and we're home to a population of just over 1.3 million people. Also, I'd like to mention that it's currently apple season in Georgia. If you would like to take the short drive up 575 past the point that it turns into State Route 515, we'd love to have you come visit District 6. It's a fun time to pick some apples. I have good news to report about the employment headcount in District 6. We've recently begun to increase our numbers, but we still have many vacancies left to fill. If you look back in 2010, the district had 378 employees. This sank to a low of 288 employees during 2021. And now it's rebounded back up to 322 employees this year. We still have a lot of work to do to fill our vacancies, but we're in a much better position than we were when I last spoke to you 2 years ago. And while our numbers are up, there's much work to be done with training our less experienced staff. The pie chart on the right shows our tenure broken down into 5-year increments for the employees in the district. If you look back in 2010, the percentage of employees with 0 to 5 years of tenure was at 27%. In 2021, that percentage had increased to 43%. Now in 2023, we have 51% of our employees with 0 to 5 years of tenure. In fact, we have 99 employees with 1 year or less tenure in the district. On the other end of the spectrum, we have 17 employees who are expected to retire in the next 3 years. So with so much experience expected to leave the district, and so many of our new employees that we have to work to train, we need to work now for knowledge retention. The fact that we have so many new people is a credit to our recruiting team, and you heard from Nicole Glenn. But the challenge before us is to focus on employee development and to keep these new people. One of the best examples of our commitment to employee development is the Maintenance Skills Development Program, or MSDP for short. The program covers a wide range of job-related policies and processes with the goal of enhancing our new employees, enhancing the skills of our new employees. There are 5 levels in the program, and employees can take the different levels as their career progresses in maintenance. The program was developed by our training office, and it's been implemented in each of our district offices. But today I want to focus on the very beginning of MSDP Level 1, what I refer to as our maintenance boot camp. So boot camp will occur within the first few weeks of a maintenance employee's start date. In 2022, we trained 49 new employees. In 2023, we trained 39 employees so far. The first week is focused on safety, emergency operations, and small equipment. The second week is all about heavy equipment operation. During this class, an employee will learn how to navigate a career at GDOT and the requirements to move up following the MSDP program. During boot camp, we try to impress upon our new employees about the need to obtain their commercial driver's license. So now I want to tell you about what we do to support our CDL, or commercial driver's license, with employees in our district. I'm very proud of the CDL training program. There's no better example of how GDOT invests in our people. District 6, it's even more critical because our minimum head count is based on the need for plow operators during winter weather, and you need to have a CDL to operate a winter weather plow. During fiscal year 23, we helped 22 people obtain their Class A commercial driver's license. I'm sorry, we helped 22. Of those 22, we had 15 that have passed on their first attempt. We had 5 that passed on their second attempt and 2 that have passed on their third attempt. I'm also proud to report that we helped 20 people attain their hazardous material endorsement. The hazmat endorsement is important for our emergency response because as part of our hurricane strike teams, we haul fuel down and you have to have a hazmat endorsement to be able to haul the fuel. But you also need that hazmat endorsement for day-to-day paving operations, so we use it routinely throughout the district. Our CDL program represents a 6-week investment in our people. GDOT covers all the expenses except for the license fee of $32. In Georgia, if a person were to get private CDL training, it would cost them between $1,700 and $6,500. So looking back at fiscal year 23, I want to highlight the accomplishments for each of our 6 main district offices. And by that, the sections within the office of District 6. I'm going to start with our administration office. In procurement, they process 1,029 requisitions with an average processing time of just 0.58 days. So if you ask them to buy something, they're generally going to let you know that day. That shows a big commitment to customer service. The team also was responsible for creating 944 purchase orders. In human resources, they hired 126 new employees. boosting the district's headcount, as I previously discussed. They processed 99 promotions and provided conditional pay for 39 of the district's commercial driver's license holders. Now moving over to the pre-construction office. This office is divided into 4 sections, and I'm going to start with our planning and programming section. Vivian just told you about the STIP, and we have one individual in the planning and programming office who held meetings with each of our local governments over the last year, so she was very busy to support the STIP approval. In our roadway design section, we have 10 engineers. This section completed 4 concept reports, 4 field plan reviews, and submitted 1 project for letting. I want to acknowledge 2 of our engineers for their accomplishments. First, Gilberto Cruz. He obtained his professional engineer license, and his name may look familiar. He's a recent graduate of the RAPID program that Andy just told you about. Also, Guillermo Numer obtained his engineering training license. And this is that first step so that you can gain the experience you need to become a professional engineer. Our right-of-way team has 15 people. They acquired 233 parcels, certified 11 projects for letting. Our survey team has 11 people, and they surveyed 116 acres. They staked 16 miles of right-of-way, 7 miles of right-of-way, 25 acres of pond surveys, and 1.5 miles of consultant checks. One activity that I want to highlight from our pre-construction office is their work to support the Freight Operation and Rural Development Program. Now, you all may remember hearing about this program from the Office of Planning, but these new lump sums require a lot of work from the district to submit the projects and then later to develop those projects. And our pre-construction office submitted 25 projects that were selected to be part of the program. Most of those projects were roundabouts. Once the projects were approved, we had 8 of them assigned to our design section for concept development. Our pre-construction team has truly been hard at work to deliver this new program. Now I'd like to transition into our construction office. This chart shows the active construction projects by improvement type. District 6 has over 50 projects, or has 50 projects under construction, with a contract value of $625 million. In fiscal year 23, we completed 35 projects. 7 of those were major projects open to traffic. Widening projects make up the largest share of our work, with 62% being reconstruction and rehabilitation. Bridge replacement make up the second largest group at 16% of the work, and maintenance being the third largest at 14%. We have 13 major projects under construction with contract values exceeding $10 million. Now I'm going to highlight a few of those. The first one is State Route 20 in Cherokee County. This is the widening from I-575 to Scott Road. The project is currently 89% complete and is on schedule to be complete late this year. This is the first segment of a plan that will widen State Route 20 from Canton in Cherokee County all the way to Cumming in Forsyth County. This project was the first A+B contract for District 6, and there's some ongoing work with the concrete islands and drainage inlets, but this road is mostly open to traffic now, and I must say it's a nice addition for a county that's just seeing a tremendous amount of growth. Next is the Old Alabama widening from State Route 113 to Pegamine Road. This project will widen a local roadway and includes bridges over Rowell Ward and Pumpkin Vine Creek. And it's going to tie to the recently widened roadway on each end of the project. Now, I must say that this project is something special. So it is the largest project under construction in the district. And it's going to widen Old Alabama to be a 4-lane rural facility with 44-foot depressed grass median. But if you look at this picture, it was taken near the airport. We're working to make a 20-foot cut to lower the roadway by 20 feet. So you can see that we've pushed traffic out to the edge of the right-of-way, and we're removing the dirt from the middle. They started to put back in some of the base on the final grade. This is truly what's meant by heavy civil construction. If you're in Bartow County, I'd like to invite you to drive through this project. It is a sight to see. We're starting to get some of the concrete pavement down now, so you can see the ribbons of concrete as you're driving on the old roadway. I would really like to invite you up to take a look at this project. Once complete, it's going to serve as a truck bypass route for the city of Cartersville, and the current completion date is during the winter of '24. All right, the next project I'd like to talk about is the Billerica Bypass. This will construct 2 miles of new location roadway from State Route 101 in the west to State Route 161 in the east. There are going to be 2 roundabouts with this project, one on each end of the road. The contractor is Astra Group, and they have completed the clearing and grubbing of the area. And currently they're working to install the temporary sediment basins and storm drainage. On the right is an aerial photo from the western end of the bypass at the intersection with State Route 101. You can see the road corridor is really starting to take shape off in the distance. And this project is going to replace this 3-way stop intersection with a modern roundabout. And if you're familiar with the area, it is routine during peak periods to see a backup of this intersection of several hundred feet. So having a roundabout here is really going to improve the operations and safety of this intersection. The next project is State Route 92 widening from Malone Road in Douglas County to Nebo Road in Paulding County. The project is currently 69% and is on the way to being completed in 2024. The contractor is C.W. Matthews, and this road's really starting to take shape. All 3 bridges have been completed. Staging for the project has really been complex. We've had to change the profile of the road along this corridor by up to 10 feet, and do that while we're maintaining access to the numerous subdivisions and properties throughout it. So it's required temporary shoring and just a lot of lengthy tie-ins to be able to maintain that access. In the final alignment, State Route 92 will be a multi-lane divided highway that will accommodate the increased traffic from a quickly growing Paulding County. Here's some additional photos from 92. The picture on the left is the contractor working to cut the subgrade at Morningside Drive. You can see off in the horizon the road is really starting to look like a divided highway. On the right is the area near Bethel Church Road with the completed concrete median curb and gutter with the bases in place. This project is part of the work that will widen State Route 92 and provide a multi-lane roadway all the way from 75 to I-20. Next, I'd like to talk about our activities in our maintenance office during fiscal year 23. I'm going to start with our emergency response to the flooding event in Chattooga and Floyd counties that occurred on September 4th, just over a year ago. The area received in excess of 12 inches of rainfall, with the highest totals being centered around the town of Byerly. GDOT was able to quickly address the issues on our state routes, but the governor declared a state of emergency, and that allowed us to provide support to the local governments to help with their roadways. GDOT mobilized 101 employees with 7 teams from District 6 and 2 teams from District 1. Our bridge inspectors reviewed every bridge in Chattooga County, and 12 structures were deemed to need repairs. There were also 36 separate roadway issues and washouts that were addressed by GDOT staff. In total, during the repair, we used 376 tons of fill dirt. We used 400 tons of graded aggregate base, 482 tons of asphalt, 40 cubic yards of concrete to repair bridges, and we placed 128 linear feet of storm drain pipe. All roads were opened by September 14th, and all repairs were complete by September 19th. Next, I'd like to provide an update on our canopy clearing work along the interstates in District 6. In the pictures on the top, you can see before images, and then on the bottom, you can see the same area after canopy clearing. Now, this work serves multiple functions for North Georgia. By removing some of the vegetation close to the travel lanes, we're increasing safety to the traveling public from trees that might fall on the roadway, but also from vehicles that might leave the roadway, so that there's not the fixed objects, the large trees that they could hit if they run off the road. That improves what we call the clear zone from the interstate. Canopy clearing also has great benefits in winter. By removing the vegetation close to the pavement, we're decreasing the amount of time that shadows can be cast on the roadway. As you can see in the picture on the right, there's shade over the pavement. So if you follow a winter event, especially late into the winter event, you'll see most of the roadways are clear and dry but you'll still have icy spots in the shadows. And by doing canopy clearing, we're able to reduce those areas of shade, which requires less work by GDOT staff to clear the roadways, and also lets the sunshine, which is the department's best ally, get to the pavement and to help us with that, clearing that winter weather. In fiscal year 23, we utilized 4 contracts to clear 10.3 shoulder miles. Our plan for 24 is to clear an additional 18.6 shoulder miles. So far, we have completed work on I-24 and I-59. We're 90% of the way done with I-75, and we're 80% complete with I-575. Another activity we focused on during fiscal year 23 is our drainage maintenance. These structures play a vital role in GDOT's overall transportation system. It's important to get water off the roadway and then to keep it off the roadway. And maintaining your pipes and drainage structures is very important because if they're filled with sediment, they cannot work properly. So the picture on the left shows a new pipe cleaning attachment that we purchased last year. You can see the yellow fins are laying flat against the rod. We then attach that rod to a bucket on a backhoe or track hoe, and we push it into the pipe. And those fins extend whenever we drag it back out, pulling all the sediment with it. This attachment's worked so well that we've actually, this year, purchased an additional one for each of our area-wide crews. The picture on the right shows one of our old corrugated metal cross drains. Installing a liner like the one on the bottom right significantly extends the life cycle of these pipes and provides additional protection from water and the elements. In fiscal year 23, our maintenance team cleared 16,589 pipes and restored 50,954 linear feet of ditches. Using maintenance contracts, we spent $1.1 million to restore 2,323 linear feet of pipe, and our plans for fiscal year 24 include the relining of 13 more pipes and to dig and replace pipes at 5 locations. Now I have some good news to report. I told you about our increased headcount in District 6. That has allowed us to restart our in-house guardrail crew. This is one of the things that we just couldn't continue to self-perform when our headcount had gotten so low. But thankfully, we had a great contractor who was able to pick up the additional work from our in-house crew. But now, with our higher staffing levels, we've been able to get 3 people back on that crew. It's a hard position to recruit for because this is one of the most manual jobs in maintenance at the district. Ultimately, we'd like to get it back to a 6-man crew, but even at half staff, they're making an impressive number of repairs to our guardrail. Now moving to the district utilities office. During fiscal year 23, the office approved 1,099 utility permits with an average approval time of just 2.8 days. They processed $4 million in reimbursable agreements to make the roadways ready for construction, and they participated and reviewed plans for 63 field plan reviews. They aided in the letting of 36 projects and reviewed 19 quick response projects. The work in this office is critical to delivering our construction program. Utility relocations can often take half or more of the overall duration of the construction time, so it's important that we do our job well to address the utility issues up front, and we can provide accurate utility adjustment schedules to our contractor. Now I'm going to move over to the operations side of the district, and I'd like to talk about roundabouts in District 6. Actually, you may not know this, but the first 2 roundabouts on the state route system were installed in Carroll County in District 6 back in 1999. Since that time, we have just not seen as many roundabouts constructed in District 6. Currently, we have 3 mini roundabouts and 11 single-lane roundabouts in the district. But I'm happy to report we're catching back up with roundabout construction. We have currently 11 under construction. That'll almost double our existing count. And we have 14 more under design and 25 more being considered in the concept phase. So many of these locations are at existing traffic signals or always stop locations, and roundabouts at these locations will improve safety and reduce delay. Now I want to talk about our flash and yellow arrow deployment. So flash and yellow arrows are used at traffic signals to more clearly communicate when it's okay to make a permissive left turn after yielding to oncoming traffic. They replaced the old standard of a 5-section head that only had yellow and green arrows. And we started using these in Georgia just about 12 years ago. So now we have a mixture of both the new and the old style across the state. In District 6, we've completed the conversion of 292 of our 592 signals, and we have 167 left to convert. So that places us right at 2/3 of the way complete with this conversion. We've developed a plan that over the next 3 years, we're going to have all except for 29 of our signals upgraded through a combination of the safety upgrade program, widening and reconstruction, and the signal maintenance program. I'm looking forward to the day that I can bury the last 5 section in our district office and say that we're done with the FYA conversion. Okay, another thing that's really exciting to me as a former traffic engineer is what our signal group has been working on to deploy dynamic decision zone detection. One of the most important parts of traffic signal timing is that moment when you change from a green indication to a yellow indication. If someone's traveling towards the intersection and they're far enough away when that change happens, they're going to stop. If they're very close to the intersection, most of them are going to proceed through on yellow. But there's an area in the middle there that we call the decision zone that some drivers will stop and some will go through. And if you change to yellow at that point, when somebody's in that area, you can see an increase in rear-end crashes. So we have tried to avoid doing that, and traditionally the way we did it was with embedded loops in the pavement. To be able to do that, an engineer would have to make an assumption about how fast the vehicles are going approaching the intersection. Well, what we're doing now on our high-speed roadways is we're installing radar detectors that measure the speed and can dynamically move the decision zone based on the speed of the vehicles. So benefits from using this dynamic decision zone detection is that it's going to reduce stops for large trucks. It reduces abrupt stops by 71%. It reduces red light running by 80%. And in District 6, we focused on our high-speed corridors. We currently have it deployed at all of our 65-mile-an-hour corridors and a lot of our 55-mile-an-hour corridors. Now, I will say that this is a very advanced type of detection, and it's not unique to District 6, but it's not being used in many jurisdictions throughout the nation. So I'm very proud to have it so widely deployed in our district. And last, I'd like to talk about our quick response projects for fiscal year 23. Just as a reminder, quick response projects must be less than $200,000, and we're typically able to deliver these contracts in a much shorter time frame. During fiscal year 23, we delivered 14 projects valued at $2.1 million. The chart shows the contract value by improvement type. And this program has been limited by escalating construction costs. We've had to focus more on turn lanes and turn lane extensions because a lot of the projects have just become too expensive for this program. This program is by far the fastest way to get from an idea to something you can actually drive on. And they typically are going to deliver a big bang for a small investment. And a project that I want to highlight for you is at the intersection of US 78 and State Route 113. This is a great example of a project that we would like to deliver by quick response. In this case, we were able to add just a little bit of pavement, shown here highlighted in blue. And that allowed us to restripe the roadway to provide left turn lanes at this traffic signal on 2 approaches. So just by adding a little bit of pavement, we're able to get those left turners out of the flow of traffic. Because if you think about it, when you're turning left, you have to wait for a gap in oncoming traffic. Well, while you're waiting, if it's a single lane approach, you're blocking everybody who wants to go straight through or make a right turn behind you. So by adding the left turn lane, we were able to reduce the PM peak hour delay by 23% and reduce the total southbound approach delay by 38%. Members of the board, this completes my presentation. Thank you very much for the opportunity to share our accomplishments in District 6. Be happy to answer any questions.
I'm interested in this dynamic decision. What is that?
So it's dynamic decision zone protection.
This is curiosity more than anything else. how accurate is it? How accurate can it be?
As far as measuring the speed of the approaching vehicles.
How does it do it? I mean, what do they make, is it, because if it is there still the loop in the pavement? Is that how it's measured?
But we do this with a radar detector that we mount overhead.
Oh, so like up on the
mast
on the
line.
light?
Mm-hmm.
Can you send tickets based on the information?
We do not store that data. We're
Okay.
strictly using this for detections.
Is there any question about that? Is there a fear factor in the community of that? I mean, that's kind of where I went first.
Yeah, and without getting too much in the details of a way a traffic signal works, it's contact closures inside the cabinet, and so what this radar detector does is it measures the speed and then puts an output to our controller to see when it's okay to change, right? And so as long as that detection is turned on, it will not change until it hits a maximum.
So, and my only other question is, how does it, or does it? Let's say in this diagram, you've got a car or truck going left to right. If there's an emergency vehicle, do they have the ability to interfere or interface with it at all?
There are devices that can do that, but it's not this device.
Okay, thank you. And I was up there this last weekend. Perfect apple picking.
Awesome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to mention that I may be one of the luckiest board members to serve on this board because I have, in my humble opinion, two incredible district engineers, Paul Denard in District 7 and, of course, Grant, who we've just heard from in District 6. And because most of my district I serve is geographically in District 6, I have more opportunity to work with Grant, and I just want to say in front of him, in front of all of you, he's never, ever disappointed. In fact, sometimes he can anticipate what I'm going to come with before I even have to say it. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate that, Grant. And I hear from a lot of our local government leaders, and Grant has made, and his team also have made an incredible intentional effort to reach out to our local government and go to them before they have to come to GDOT for finding solutions. And a lot of our area up there is rapidly growing with economic development, commerce and industry, and warehousing is coming up there. And Grant, we couldn't have anyone to cooperate more fully and better with us than you and your team. So I'm very grateful, and I know a lot of the local governments in our area are very grateful for how quickly you respond and get things turned around. And Mr. Chairman and Commissioner, I wanted you to hear that as well. He does a great job, he and his entire team. Thank you, Grant.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Any more questions? Okay, thank you very much, Frank.
Thank you.
Next person, Bill Lemig, update on Mr. Bill Wright.
Good afternoon, Chairman, members of the board, and Commissioner.
Good morning.
I'm Bill Wright with the local grant. I'm the local grants administrator in the local grants office. Today, I'd like to share some information with you on the Local Maintenance Improvement Grant, or LMIG, and the Federal Off-System Safety Program, or what we call OSS. So the LMIG program was formerly called Local Assistance Road Program, or LARP, and state aid. The programs were renamed LMIG under the Senate Bill 200 in 2009 legislative session. In the time before LMIG, the governor and the General Assembly would pass GDOT's budget and set aside a portion of the state motor fuel tax for LARP and another portion for state aid. LARP typically would get 20 to 40 million, and state aid would get about the same amount. Now, LARP was only resurfacing, and GDOT spread that money out by a formula. The formula was set by GDOT and used a weighted average of population and centerline lane miles. LARP had 0% match requirements for the local governments, other than requiring the local governments to have their roads properly prepared for the resurfacing. Now, preparing the roads for resurfacing was often a costly endeavor for the local governments. State aid funds were administered by the commissioner on an as-needed basis and were used for roadway projects, intersection improvements, turn lanes, sidewalks, etc. The budget typically spelled out how much would be on-system and versus off-system. For state aid, a local government was required to fund engineering, buy the right-of-way, and pay at least 50% of the construction. So therefore, the match was actually much larger than the 50%. Now, Senate Bill 200 changed the project management from GDOT to the local governments. Now, Senate Bill 200 added that funds allocated each fiscal year for the LMIG program shall not be less than 10%, no more than 20% of the money derived from the motor fuel taxes received by the state in the immediately preceding fiscal year. 10% is the 10% is the percentage that is being used to date. The bill also directs the planning director to develop a formula for funding distribution. Now, various factors and weights were studied before a final decision was made to use population and centerline miles, that's paved and unpaved roads, as the determining factors. The planning director at the time updated the formula with the input from the Association of County Commissioners of Georgia, the ACCG, and the Georgia Municipal Association, or the GMA, and others. Now, Senate Bill 200, in 2010, House Bill 277 changed the LMIG match requirements. There became a 10% match for regions that passed the Transportation Investment Act, which we call TIA, and a 30% match for regions that did not pass TIA. Between 2012 and 2018, 4 of the 12 regions in the state passed TIA, so the 65 counties that make up the regions fall under the 10% match requirement. The remaining 94 counties fall under the 30% match requirements. In September 2012, GDOT rolled out the new LMIG program that allows local governments a great deal of flexibility while taking into consideration the new match requirements. Now, each local government has complete control of expenditures. All pre-construction activities, advertisements, lettings, and quality control of work and materials are the responsibility of the local government. All these expenses are also eligible for LMIG funds and the match requirements. All projects identified on a project list are to be constructed in accordance with GDOT standard specifications. And at the beginning of each fiscal year, each local government is provided a formula amount of the LMIG funds based on the LMIG formula. Now, to receive the formula, to receive the funds, a local government applies to GDOT. The local government has until February of the following year to apply. Now, the application requires a cover letter, signed application page, and a project list. This slide shows you the eligible LMIG project types. And this next slide shows you the list of project types that are not eligible for LMIG funding. Now, prior to fiscal year 2020, each local government sent their paper applications to the district state aid coordinator for review. The district state aid coordinator would then forward the application to our local grants office here in Atlanta via inter-office mail. Our office would then forward the paperwork to the accounting office to request payment. So this process could easily take over a month. In 2019, we had a wonderful team from our IT department who worked with us to create an online program. In fiscal year 2020, the GDOT LMIG application process went electronic. Local governments now apply for their LMIG funds online. A complete application is typically reviewed and approved by the district and our state office within 3 to 5 days. And once an application is approved, a local government receives their grant funds via a check or electronically if they've set up through the state accounting office to receive electronic payments. So the online application program also allows a local government to view their previous grant applications dating back to fiscal year 2020. Now, the GDOT application evaluation process includes, is a local government in audit compliance with the Department of Audits and Accounting? Is the local government in compliance with the Department of Community Affairs and their minimum standards under the Georgia Planning Act related to immigration and the Service Delivery Strategy Law? Are the listed projects eligible for LMIG funds? Are any of the projects already on a TIA-approved project list? Does the application signature page include a local government seal and a notary seal? Is a cover letter included explaining the progress of previous grant funds? And has the local government provided a statement of final expenditures form and invoices for prior year's projects? Now, GDOT expects typical resurfacing and maintenance type projects to be completed within a year from the date of receiving the LMIG funds. More complicated projects are we ask them to be substantially complete within 3 years from the date of receiving the grant funds. But we also allow a local government to roll their funds up to 3 years for a larger project. Now, this chart shows how the LMIG funds have increased since fiscal year 2015. Then I have a couple examples of some LMIG projects. This is Peachtree Corners, Gunning Road, where they added a sidewalk for pedestrian safety. Here's a project in St. Mary's, the Seagrove Street, a resurfacing project. Here's a project in Lincolnton, Dallas Street, where they did some culvert and roadway repairs. And another resurfacing project and striping project in Jenkins County on Williams Road. Now, the next program is the Off-System Safety Program, or the OSS program. It was established in 2005 to help reduce crashes on off-system routes. At the time, over 40% of the fatalities in Georgia were occurring on off-system routes. Meeting Georgia's goals for fatality reduction requires investment in improving safety on these off-system routes. And for this reason, the OSS program focuses on low-cost safety improvements that can be implemented within the existing right-of-way to help reduce the frequency and severity of the off-system crashes. We have a state-funded and a federal-funded component to this program. We call the state-funded program Safety Action Plan, or SAP. Occasionally, our office receives funds from the amended budget passed by the legislature each spring. When this happens, we use these funds for off-system safety projects such as striping, rumble strips, and shoulder widening. And we use a data-driven approach for determining possible locations. Our traffic operations office has some software that enables us to pull data on where the most crashes are occurring. Now, the district state aid coordinators then do outreach to the respective local governments to see if they're interested in participating in this program. And the SAP program is managed like the regular LMIG process, where an application is required to be submitted by the local government, and there is a 10 to 30% match is required. In fiscal year 23, we received about $9 million and distributed it to 44 local governments. Now, the federally funded off-system OSS program receives approximately $7 million per year. Local grants works very closely with the State Traffic Operations Office and local governments to ensure that the projects that are selected are using a data-driven approach also. Once the projects are selected for the federal off-system OSS program, they follow the entire plan development and letting process. Currently, we have projects programmed through fiscal year 2025. The OSS program typically lets between 15 to 20 projects each fiscal year with no match required. We encourage our local governments that have the resources to assist with the fieldwork data collection to participate in that if possible. The projects are typically completed within 1 year once let to construction. Now, due to limited funds, we cannot reach out to everyone every year. Instead, our state aid coordinators try to work with new local governments each year. For example, if we partnered on an off-system safety project with Fulton County this year, we would try to work with another local government the following year. Here's an example, a very innovative example from Bacon County on 4th Street. On the bottom left, you can see they did some shoulder widening. That was using the off-system safety funds. And then they used their LMIG funds to do the patching and resurfacing and striping. And here's another example in the city of Tucker on Main Street, where they had rectangular rapid flashing beacons installed in the downtown area for pedestrian safety. That concludes my presentation. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you all today.
I've got one. The formula that you mentioned, I know that formula's been around for a few years, but you said something in there that gave me the impression that the formula could change if it ever needed to change. Is that right? Can that formula change, or is that pretty much fixed?
My understanding, there's flexibility in the legislation.
Any idea what could trigger such a change?
Well, of course, ultimately, our planning director is the one who, we work with to ensure that, to continue using that same formula. So I guess that information...
Start from that office, most likely. And then, real quickly, Mr. Chair, of all the local governments in the state, on an annual basis, what would you say is a percentage average of local governments that receive LMIG funds?
That receive?
Yeah, that receive.
We typically have at least, I think for fiscal year 23, we had 83 to 84% participation from local governments.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So does that mean are there leftover LMIG funds at the end of a fiscal year? And if so, what may happen to those funds if they're not used for LMIG-related projects?
Typically, then, if we have any leftover funds, those would go to what we call additional LMIG-type projects, where we may receive requests for educational-type projects, emergency-type projects, and economic development-type projects.
And those decisions are decisions that GDOT would make. They would come back to our control and not be expected to be used for local government improvements.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
There we go.
May I add to that?
Yes.
Let me add to that too. On the 83%, most of those are small cities.
Yeah.
So I think every county participates, but there's a lot of cities, if you look at formula, that may get, and Bill, you can correct me if I'm wrong, $2,000 or $5,000, some small amount of money that really does much. Or some of the smaller cities just don't have the capabilities to even administer. You might have a city clerk and that's it, So that's why there's not 100% participation, despite our trying. I might add that Bill is the most popular man at ACCG and GMA annual meeting. He and his team go to ACCG and GMA's annual meetings and actually have a booth, again, to market and try to educate people, the cities and the counties, about how they access the dollars that come to them, and how we can work with them. So I appreciate Bill and his team always being attainable and available to help the cities and the counties. And one of those, your other question about the formula, that is a function, the planning director makes that decision. And so that can change at the planning director's, by state law, in this case, by her decision. So it seems to be pretty tried and true and work pretty well, and pretty well understood. Would every city and every county like to get more money? Yes. How you do that, I think, is probably tricky. And then the other thing, I just want to go back in the transition, because again, Bill's a popular guy, and the program's a popular program, because again, when we get those lists and they're vetted of the work to be done, as he said, the money goes out front. Every other program's a reimbursable program, meaning local governments do the work, spend their money, get a reimbursable sent to them eventually. In this program, it goes out the door first. And so they have the money. They don't have to front the money to get work done. And many of the programs as well, a lot of the cities and counties leverage the LMIG to put with their SPLOST dollars or their T-SPLOST dollars, or if they're TIA regions, their TIA dollars to do resurfacing. The lion's share of the applications we get is just basic resurfacing, trying to take care of state of good repair. So it is a very meaningful program, and again, from time to time, you'll see, you know, a city or county may not participate, and then they'll show up after February and say, oh, by the way, and we always try to accommodate that, even though we try to have deadlines so that money can be out the door, and a lot of work that takes on Bill and his staff to review, and the districts as well. Each district has a state aid coordinator that's as an asset to the cities and the counties that can help them with technical work as well. And we help a lot of cities and counties, like sizing pipes, and the district engineers and their teams help, their design offices help, you know, to help them. You know, pipe washes out, well, what size, you know, if a 36-inch pipe washes out, what do you really need to put back, you know? And so we help a lot. So the state aid coordinators out in the district and district engineers, a real resource to cities and counties. But it's a big program. It's a wonderful program, Mr. Chairman. It's going really well. And like, again, you don't hear many complaints about it. The only thing is everybody'd like a little bit more. So thank you.
Very, very good. And my question, what more question, Mr. Wright? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. No, this is, how for me? Okay. That more question meeting adjourned. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.